Did you know that Edgar Allan Poe married his cousin? Or did you know that Herman Melville and Nathaniel Hawthorne, two of the most famous authors of all time, were neighbors? Did you know that Emily Dickinson was a reclusive hermit, or even that F. Scott Fitzgerald based much of his most famous writing on his own life? Well, American authors are filled with fun facts, as they lived very, at times, fantastical lives. But for our purposes in Quizbowl, it's more important that we learn their works. So without further ado, I'm Lodrin, you're a bunch of nerds, and welcome to the top 10 American authors of all time. Now this list includes both poets, playwrights, authors, basically any writers from American history. So it's not just people who have written novels, as you'll soon see. But as my last video got very meandery, we're going to jump right into this one. So our first author is going to be Mark Twain. Now here's Mark Twain here. Mark Twain, his real name is actually Samuel Langhorne Clemens. That's something you'll see pop up from time to time in Quizbowl question. Give me a second to fix my screen. Mark Twain is famous mostly for his most famous work, his Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, about a boy sailing down a river with an escaped slave named Jim. They go on many adventures. There's more about that in my top 10 novels. His probably second most famous work is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, where Tom Sawyer he's a different young boy. He goes through many adventures. He whitewashes a fence. He discovers treasure. He finds a dead body. And then there are two more novels about Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer Abroad, chronicling his travels, and Tom Sawyer Detective, which is about Tom Sawyer down in the South. So sometimes you'll see questions about Tom Sawyer. Other works of Mark Twain include A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is a man from the 19th century, goes back to medieval times, and this novel really shows how bad the medieval times were. The Prince and the Pauper is about Edward VII, I believe, and a poor boy who look very similar. They swap roles, see what each other's lives are like, and it's somewhat meant as a criticism both of the nobility and the poor class. Life on the Mississippi is a semi-autobiographical work by Mark Twain. It starts talking about his own experience working on a river, and then later on it documents his return to the river he originally worked on. And as he returns, he sees how things have changed, how industrialization and railroads have hit it. And then his most famous short story is The Celebrated Jumping Frogs of Calaveras County. That's a weird book. I would suggest you read that. It's really short, really interesting, but it's just about frogs. That's all you should need to know for now. Moving on to our second author of the video, which would be John Steinbeck. Let me look him up. John Steinbeck, probably most famous for either his novel Grapes of Wrath or his novella of Mice and Men. Grapes of Wrath is about the Joad family as they migrate around the American West. They experience many different things. It's really hard to explain everything that goes on, but if you know the Joad family, you pay attention to questions set in the West, you should be able to buzz on this. One important note, and this is slightly strange, is the novel ends with the Rose breastfeeding a young member of the Joad family. That's a clue that will pop up a lot. Of Mice and Men is about George Milton and Lenny Small. It's a novella. They move to a new area and they dream of starting a farm together. However, Lenny is a big man and he's not quite in control of himself at all times. He accidentally kills a woman, and Milton has to kill Lenny Small because he knows that the townspeople would do it anyway, so it's a mercy kill. Really dark book, but that's important to know. East of Eden is another novel of his. Let me look up the main characters. It's in a similar vein to Grapes of Wrath, but it's a lot longer of a book. It's about a family, similar to Grapes of Wrath. Let me find the main characters here. Oh, it brings to life two families, the Trasks and the Hamiltons. There's a lot more to the book. I can't explain it all here. Just go read it yourself or read a plot summary if you want more. Another important one is The Pearl. It stars a character named Kino. Basically, the Pearl somewhat destroys his life. Canary Row is an important work of Steinbeck. And then another one, The Winter of Our Discontent, is one last one I think you definitely should know. Let me look up that one real quick. Discontent. This is a full novel by Steinbeck. Let me look. Yeah, so the line comes from Richard III, which you'll see referenced. And then the story is about... it's about Ethan Allen Holly. and then he is basically trying to hold the money that his parents had, but he's not super happy with it, and it really deals with the morality of the character. You'll mainly just see the title come up for that. Moving on to our third author, possibly one of the most famous, for sure, authors. You've probably heard of him, F. Scott Fitzgerald. We're going to go over his 5 novels really quickly. The Great Gatsby is about a relationship and an extramarital affair between Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan. At the end of the novel, though, Daisy accidentally runs over the affair partner of her husband, but the husband of that third affair partner comes and kills Gatsby thinking he did it, and then kills himself. So in the end, Daisy and Tom get away, even though they're the real villains of the novel. Tender as the Night is another novel by him. It tells the story of his wife in a fictional sense. It's about... look up the characters. Here, I'll look up the characters. Tender as the Night is a really important one to know. The main characters basically go through their life. Lots of affairs, as is common with him. Dick and Nicole Diver are their names. Important thing to know is most of Fitzgerald's novels are set during the Jazz Age, so that's like 1920s, 1910s, 1930s, pretty much before the Great Depression mostly. This Side of Paradise is mostly the story of Fitzgerald himself, obviously fictionalized. It was his first novel. The Beautiful and Damned is about a couple who start off rich and married and somewhat happy, but not quite happy. But as it goes on, more and more the guy becomes more and more villainous. He becomes the damned, and then the woman kind of loses her beauty. So the title is kind of ironic by the end. The Last Tycoon is about a man who works on a film industry, and he has a partner who falls in love with his daughter, and he's not a big fan of that. But by the end of the novel, both the daughter's lover and father both end up dead, and she's left with nothing. This is an unfinished novel. That's important. The 2 important short stories from him, Winter Dreams, just know the name Winter Dreams, and then The Diamond as Big as the Ritz. Basically, this family finds a massive mountain-shaped diamond. They try to protect it so it doesn't get out into the world. They become greedy. They kill people. They basically lose their humanity, all for the pursuit of money. Moving on to our 4th author, we have Ernest Hemingway. He wrote The Old Man and the Sea, which involves this guy named Santiago, and he just can't catch fish. This is a novella. We have A Farewell to Arms, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's about a soldier who goes to a hospital, and then in the hospital he meets the nurse Catherine Berkeley. So it's Frederick Henry meets Catherine Berkeley, and they fall in love. Let's see what else we got. For Whom the Bell Tolls, it's like not a mystery novel necessarily, but it takes place during the Spanish Inquisition. That's important to know. Main character, Spanish Civil War, my bad. Spanish Civil War. The Sun Also Rises, just know this was his first novel, and then In Our Time is the last important novel from him. Ernest Hemingway is pretty important, definitely learn his stuff. Next we have Nathaniel Hawthorne. By the way, the authors are in no particular order. Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote The Scarlet Letter, which Hester Prynne and her daughter Pearl are ostracized from society because of an extramarital affair. And Arthur Dimmesdale struggles with the guilt of being part of this affair, and Roger Chillingworth, Hester Prynne's former husband, basically comes back to take revenge. In the end, Dimmesdale and Chillingworth end up dead. The House of the Seven Gables, just if it says the title edifice of this story, it's most likely the House of the Seven Gables. Gables are like parts of a house, just look up what they are. And then they know that they point north, east, south, and west. That comes up a lot. Other novels from him, The Blithedale Romance, Young Goodman Brown is a short story, The Minister's Black Veil is another short story. Just know these in reference to Nathaniel Hawthorne. We have Herman Melville, one of the most important novelists of all time. He wrote Moby Dick, about Captain Ahab searching for the white whale, Moby Dick, on the ship the Pequod. Ishmael is our narrator, and he just travels with Captain Ahab as he struggles to catch the whale. No Billy Budd, Bartleby the Scrivener, Benito Cereno, The Encantadas. All these novels are mainly about sailors. It's a big common theme with Melville. Some of these are short stories. You'll see many of these come up when it says title character and it's a sailor. It's probably going to be Billy Budd or Bartleby the Scrivener, maybe Benito Cereno. All of these come up a lot. Just know he's big into sailing. Edgar Allan Poe, he's more of a poet than an author, but he definitely wrote some novels and short stories. He wrote The Raven, of course, read the Raven, mostly memorize the Raven. It comes up a lot. You have to know the exact wording. You have to know like Bust of Athena. You have to know Nevermore, all the stuff from the poem. The Telltale Heart is, I believe, a novel. Let me check that while I'm looking for this. Oh, it's a short story. Yes, a short story. Oh. So yeah, that's right. So the narrator is the murderer in this novel, and he's just trying to convince the readers that he's completely sane, but also he's telling a story of how he killed somebody. Other things from Poe: The Fall of the House of Usher. A man visits an old house. This woman comes back to life in a freak storm, and that Madeline Usher comes to life, and then the whole House of Usher falls. The Cask of Amontillado. Read that book. I'm actually not going to spoil it because it's a really good book you should read. Annabel Lee is another poem by him about a woman, possibly his cousin who he married, but it's kind of like a tribute to her. The Black Cat is another scary type, a short story. The Mask of the Red Dead, The Pit in the Pendulum, The Murders in the Rue Morgue. All of these you should read. If you want a quick spoiler on The Murders in the Rue Morgue, it was actually a gorilla that did the kills. Just remember that if it ever pops up. We're going to move on to Emily Dickinson, known as the Belle of Amherst. She's known as the Belle of Amherst because she was a recluse from the Belle of Amherst. She wrote many, many poems. Her most famous one is definitely Because I Could Not Stop for Death. Often you'll see a question asked, what's the answer? Death. So we'll talk about a bunch of different novels. And then we'll say, like, the narrator wonders that this figure stopped for her or did not stop for her in a poem by Emily Dickinson. So just remember that's death. Because I Could Not Stop for Death. You should read that. Really short novel, important. I heard a Fly Buzz When I Died. It's another poem by Emily Dickinson. This is the only other one I see pop up a lot. No Hope is a Thing with Feathers. I've seen that before, but really those other two poems are the most important. Because I Could Not Stop for Death, and I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died. Sylvia Plath is another poet. She wrote one novel, which is called The Bell Jar. I'll give you the main character. You should probably do the whole description of it. Esther Greenwood is the main character. This is a really complex book. It comes up a lot as her only novel. If you hear only novel and it's a woman, it's probably Sylvia Plath, so just pay attention to other clues. She wrote poems such as Daddy about her father, Lady Lazarus, Tulips, The Colossus. If you read her poetry, you can get familiar with her style and start to buzz on it. I'd say most poets are like that. Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost, Maya Angelou. If you read a lot of their poetry, you can start to pick it up in clues. That's them. Finally, our 10th author will be Robert Frost. Finally, another poet. Obviously, we have a lot of poets. Fire and Ice is one of his poems. You'll hear clues about contrasting elements. That's an important clue that it's fire and ice. He has a poem called Mending Wall. You'll hear the term good fences make good neighbors. That comes from this, the Mending Wall. Another important one is The Road Not Taken. Obviously, you know that one. His most famous one, on it he goes down the road less traveled by, and it ends with, it says, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Read that poem, really short. It's a kid's poem. You can get that done easily. And then Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening is a separate poem from The Road Not Taken, which is also important to know. So it talks about the darkest evening of the year. It's a lonely night. It's a snowy night. If you hear poem and it's American, there's a good chance it's from Robert Frost, so look out for Fire and Ice, look out for Mending Wall. And then finally, we're going to talk about birches. Birches is about trees, so if you hear a poem that talks about a lot about trees, might mention the title trees, it's probably going to be birches. So with that, I did this much quicker than I did the novels one. Obviously, I did not go into depth on a lot of these things. You won't remember them all with how fast I talked. But what I hope this video will do is, with these 10 authors, first of all, I believe these are the 10 most important for Quizbowl. Sylvia Plath is definitely more of a high school thing, especially upper high school, but the rest of these you'll see a lot in middle school and easy high school. Obviously, there are more famous novelists and stuff that come up at a higher level, like Melville. Even though I think he's one of the most famous American authors, at the lower level, he's not quite as prevalent. But I think these 10, if you understand them, understand their most famous works, that will help you a ton. Obviously, you don't need the full understanding of these works that you need of the 10 books I mentioned in my previous video, but you definitely do need a good understanding of these authors. Know their works, know their lives, and then you should be all good. Sorry, I talk so fast. I'm trying to keep these videos shorter. I know it's very much like I'm spewing information, but that's kind of the point. If you want to write things down, do it. If not, just remember these authors, go out, research them, remember the most important books I noticed. If you need more to read, just look up the most important books from these novelists, and then you can get more novels from them. I think this is especially good for somebody like Melville or Sylvia Plath or maybe Edgar Allan Poe, the types of people that keep appearing at a higher high school level. Their first novel, their first clues are going to be about books that I did not even talk about in this video, so you really need to know the deep cut references. But unless you guys have any questions for the comments, point out any mistakes I made as I went quickly through all these books. But if not, then I will see you guys next time, where we will talk about tricks for buzzing on and answering bonuses about literature, specifically novels. See ya.